Hey, my name is Jesus Castillo, and in this video you are going to learn how HTTP works. HTTP is a very important topic to understand if you want to become a Ruby Rails developer. So what is HTTP? Well, HTTP is a protocol. And what is a protocol? Well, a protocol is a set of rules for communication between two parties. In this case, we are talking about a client and a server. So the client is the web browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and the server is just the other side, the Apache, the Nginx. Okay, so the protocol is just the rules how these two communicate. And in the case of the web, when you connect to a website using your browser, the protocol is called HTTP. And why is this important? Well, because when you use the web, normally you're using Chrome or Firefox or Safari, and you're just browsing the web. Well, it doesn't really matter that much because the browser is doing all of this for you. But when you want to become a web developer, then you need to understand how this works, because this directly affects how you write your code and how you do things. So in Rails, you have routes, and the routes match the URL to a controller action. Okay? And this is where HTTP verbs come in. So what is an HTTP verb? Well, a verb, or also called a HTTP method, is the different actions that you can do from the client point of view. So when you are connecting to a website, you are either requesting information or sending information. You're doing something, right? So for example, if you are requesting the latest news or the latest information or the homepage or anything like that, that's a get request. You are getting something, you're requesting something. When you are logging in, this is a post request. You're sending information, you're sending your username and password to the server, and that's a post request. These other three kinds in Rails also, as you will see in a moment. So these two put and patch, are used for updating. So patch is when you want to update just one part of the user. So if you have a user model, maybe you just want to update your email address, or you want to change your password. That will be a patch request. And then put, there is a slight difference, that if I understand correctly, put, the difference is that you are replacing everything. So it's like you're replacing all of the user with basically a new user. You're replacing all of the fields. But usually what you will use is patch, but Rails supports both. Rails, it just treats both as the same, as you will see when we look at the routes. So delete is just what it says, very simple, is deleting something. Like delete a user, delete some entry in the database. So that's what we call HTTP verbs. And right here I have a Rails application, and I'm calling rate routes, and this prints the routes for the application. So the routes again are the match between the URL and the controller action, and you can see that right here. This is the URL pattern, This is the home page, this /books /books new, and this is the matching controller action. So the books controller index action, and the actions in controller I use Ruby methods. Okay, so books controller create action, books controller new action. So why do these two look the same, but they map to different actions? So right here we have /books and /books, and right here we have /books ID. So this ID is a specific ID like 1, 2, 3, 100, and this also the same. So these books and these books is the same, but they map to different actions. Well, the difference is in this column, the verb column. So notice right here we see things like get, post, get, patch, path, and delete. So these are the same that I have right here, the HTTP verbs that you need to be familiar with as a Ruby on Rails developer. And the reason is that these match directly to the routing system in Rails, so you need to know and understand the difference. So right here, let's take a look at this specific example. This is the root route, and it matches to the use slash. So that means your home page, right? And this goes into the controller and the action index. So right here, since these are requests for information, we're just get. We're getting the information, we're requesting the information. But this other one, it goes to create. So when we want to create a new book, because this application is about books, it's a book collection, a book catalog application, where when we create a book, we're going to be sending information about the book that we want to create, right? So a book that we want to create might have things like attributes, like the title, the author, the cover of the book, and other information like number of pages, things like that. All of this information, we have to send it. We send it from the browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, to the server. And on the server, we have Rails, and Rails is going to process the request. So when the Rails router finds this request, it's going to see, well, I have this route with a post verb, so it matches with this. And it's also this URL. So we got a match, and this request goes into books create, into the books controller create action. And that's how this works. And for these other ones, as you can see right here, both patch and put match to the same action. Right here, patch goes to update, and put also goes to update. So in this case, it doesn't really matter which one you use. And finally, delete. The URL is books ID, so this is the ID of the book that you want to delete. And the matching controller action is books destroy. Notice ID you will be able to access using the params array. Okay, I mean the params hash, because it's a hash. And then you will have access to this ID, and since you are inside the destroy method, the destroy action, you will know what to do in there. You will know that you have to find this book and remove it from the database. So that's HTTP verbs. Remember that each of these verbs has a different purpose and a different use. Get for request information, post for sending information. So that's the overview of HTTP verbs and how it matches to your Rails application. Now there are some tools you can use to actually make your own request. So normally the browser, when you open Chrome, Firefox, makes this request for you. But you can also use some tools like Curl to make this request yourself and see what happens and see the actual response, like the raw response. So right here I'm using Curl with this flag -I, and this tells Curl that we only want the headers, the actual like the metadata, not the content of the request. So the content is like the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript. This is the data about the data. Okay, we call that metadata, and that's this that I have highlighted right here, and the data has the HTTP version, so this is HTTP 1.1, and this is the response code, which is 200 OK. And then we have this section that we call HTTP header. So you don't need to know, you don't need to worry about understanding all of this. The two ones that I will highlight for you, it will be this runtime one, which can be helpful if you're working on performance, because this tells you how long it takes to process the request. And then the other one is the set cookie, which I'm going to cover right now. So what is a cookie? Well, for that we need to understand these sessions and cookies. So HTTP, the protocol, is stateless. What does that mean? Well, it means that when you connect to a website 10 times, for the website, for the server, you are 10 different persons. Okay? So the only way for the server to know that you are the same person is to use a cookie. So cookies are used to keep state. In other words, cookies allow the server and the Rails application to identify or to know that the user is logged in, and then to recognize that it's the same person, right? So cookies allow to identify yourself as the user. So every time that you load the page, you don't have to be entering your email address and password every single time. It remembers you for some time, right? So that's that we call a session. So specifically, the way this works is that when you go to a website, it sends you some cookies. So that's this set cookie header. And in this case, a cookie is used like a hash, has keys and values, So the key is book session, and the value is this string right here. And you are not supposed to be able to read this because this encoded is protected with encryption. The reason for that is that you don't want your users to be changing this, okay? But Rails, when you send this back to Rails, then Rails can decode this and know that you are logged in or not logged in. And you can also use cookies to set some preference like user language or things like that. Now, when I connect back to the server, to the Rails application, I'm going to be sending back this cookie. every time, every page that I request, I'm going to be sending back the same cookie. And if I log in, then Rails or Gmail or whatever site you are connected to, Facebook, whatever, Twitter, is going to know, oh, it's this person, and this person has logged in recently, and this cookie is active. So we know that it's this person because that's his cookie, that's his session. Now, what that means is that if I give this cookie to somebody else and I'm logged in at the moment, then this cookie is the same, is equivalent to being logged in. So the other person can take this cookie, send it to the application, to the website, and then that person will be logged in. So it will be the same. The server will make no difference. Okay, so the server doesn't look at the IP address or the browser or anything like that. It just looks at this right here, at the cookie. See, the cookie is the same. The person will be logged in. Now, these cookies expire with time. You can make them expire with time. And also when you log in again, or when you log out, this cookie is no longer, this session cookie is no longer valid. So it's not exactly the same as the other person having your username and password, because those don't expire. But for a specific amount of time, it is equivalent to that. So cookies, as you can see, they are very important. Now, cookie management, all of this happens if you're using a gem like device for authentication. All of that is managed for you, so you don't have to actually create or change cookie manually. You don't have to do anything with cookies manually in your code. You're using device or any other authentication gem, but it's good to understand how this works. Okay, and there are other tools that you can use like Postman. This tool is interesting because it's a graphical user interface, as you can see right here. And it has a history of your request, and you can make all kind of things right here: collections, environments. So what is this? Well, you know how I requested localhost right here using this curl tool? Well, it's the same thing, but with a graphical interface. And you can choose the different verbs or methods, like we can choose get, put, patch, delete, and there are some other ones, but these are not that helpful or interesting. Just know these first 5, okay, until here. And here you can choose which one you want to use. So for example, you can choose post, and then you have this body option. And what is this? Well, this is how you send data. So remember how with get you request data, with post you send data. So you send data through this body, and then if this were something like login page, like maybe login/login, right? Then you can pass the email and the password like this. Okay, and then you click send, and it will send the request. Of course, right here I get an error because I don't have device or any kind of login in this particular application. But as you can see right here, it works, and we can see, you can also click on preview, and you can see the request that we sent. So the request is like we just fill a form, but it happens through this tool. And this tool can be very useful because you can save this request, you can send them again, you can make changes in here, right? You can add new things, you can deselect these ones or things like that, right? So it's very flexible tool if you do anything with HTTP. So this is called Postman. That's what you need to know to have a basic understanding of HTTP as a Ruby on Rails developer. Just a quick review. HTTP is a protocol, a set of rules for the browser and server to talk, to exchange information. Then the way that happens is through HTTP verbs, which are like the different actions that you can do: get, post, put, patch, delete. And this match directly to Rails routes. So you can do break routes and see the verb column. And finally, we have sessions and cookies, which is how we identify the different users of your application and how we log in and log out users. So that's it. If you like this video, make sure to click the like button for me so I know that you like it. If you want to keep learning, watch more of my videos now. Visit my website rubyguides.com and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, so you can get more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching. I will see you in the next video.